Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan, and here we do a little bit of all things creepy, but this week I am doing nothing but reading scary stories that you guys have sent in to me. So with that being said, if you have... Pira, can I help you? Come here. Come here. Come on. All the way. All the way. So with that being said, if you guys have any stories that you would like for me to share, please send them to the email in the description. And also in that description, you will see podcast episode links and social media links. My brain went for a second. But with all that being said, you want to say it, Pira? Do you want to say it? You want to say let's get into the stories? You're purring so loud. Alright. I'm from the Saskatchewan prairies in Canada, and I believe I have something attached to me. I think it's been attached since I became sober 6 years ago. I've been told so many times by at least 30 plus people that you can have something attached to you while you still use drugs or alcohol. I'm also Indigenous. I have 3 kids. Here are all the things that have happened to me paranormal wise. One day I was at my first apartment, which was a bachelor suite in a house. I was watching a movie, pushed pause to brush my teeth, and 10 seconds into brushing my teeth, I hear, ha ha. Hearing that terrified me. I wouldn't leave the bathroom for a good 10 minutes. The voice wasn't muffled like it was from outside or upstairs. I was home alone in this suite, and I was also pregnant with my son at the time. Having a paranormal experience pregnant has got to be like the worst thing in the world. Another time I was in the bathroom at one of my recent rentals. I had 2 kids at this point. They were sitting in the living room, and I thought their dad was with them eating because I heard his voice talking to them. Till I came out to join them, and my husband wasn't in the room. He walked in from outside 10 seconds later. In that same place, we weren't home, but when we came home, the burners of the stove were on. We moved in at our current place, we started hearing the cupboard slamming. A couple months ago, I slammed a door a little too hard upstairs, and right when I did, I heard a voice yell, "Relax." Again, it wasn't muffled, like it wasn't a neighbor or anything. My husband was in the next room, and he said he didn't hear anything. Recently, I got a puppy, and I fell asleep with my puppy's crate in front of me. When I woke up, that crate was open, and my dog Titus was sleeping beside me. My husband said that he went to bed and it was closed. I want to keep talking about this, but I'm feeling more scared the more I type. I feel eyes on me. But thank you for reading, and if you've gotten this far, I love your content. Thank you. That is very alarming. I'm wondering, you said you were Indigenous. Are there any Indigenous practices when it comes to protection and things that you would feel comfortable using? Because I think that would be really beneficial to you if you were able to use those. I would look into that. Alright, next story. Backstory. Throughout my life, I've always been more connected to the afterlife than those around me, even when I think back to situations that happened when I was a kid. I can only come to the conclusion that I was picking up or seeing things that I didn't understand, which freaked me out. I have stories for days, but this one in particular is the most recent and, to my knowledge, has never happened to me before. Context. I work at a bar, so coming home late at night is usual for me. I live in a large apartment with 4 other friends. There are 3 bedrooms on one side, and then 1 bedroom in our living room on the other side. I came home from work and I heard someone say, "Hey," so I looked up and saw someone go into the living room. I didn't recognize the "hey," but I had my headphones on, so I chalked it up to me not hearing them properly. I didn't say anything, I just went to drop my bag in the room and walk into the living room, maybe 5 to 10 minutes later. No one's there, and in fact, no one was on that side of the house at all. Creeped out, I just went back to my room. A day or 2 later, I was waiting for my best friend to come over. She's been my best friend for 8 years, and I know her voice. She texted me to let me know she was parking the car, so I went and unlocked the door so she could walk right in. I was in the kitchen getting food for my cats when I heard the door open and her voice, clear as day, calling my name. So I said, "Yeah, bro, I'm in the kitchen." Silence. So I figure she's in my room. I get close to my room only to hear her actually come in the front door. My heart never dropped into my stomach so fast. I asked her if she had left and came back, but no, she had just gotten there. A mimic for sure. I cleansed my home and haven't heard much since, but I have a feeling it's not over yet. I love sharing these stories with people who actually believe me. Most people I know think I'm just crazy and these things don't exist. I'm sure you get so many emails, but I'd love to tell you more about the scariest house that I've ever lived in if you're interested. Yes. That does sound a bit mimicky to me. Hopefully it wasn't around long enough to form an attachment if you said that it left pretty quickly after you cleansed. If anything happens again, hopefully it doesn't. Just try your best to ignore it, so hopefully it doesn't attach. Alright, next story. I love all of your content at the daytime, but at night I literally save it so I can watch it in the morning. That's how much I love your page. and I changed my parents' names into James and Olivia. A little bit of background: my parents moved to my hometown in the Limpopo province of RSA in 2008 into an estate that was previously a farm. My guess is that our house is built on the graveyard at the farm, as it isn't uncommon to have graves on farms in RSA. I don't know if it's the same as in the States. But the reason for me thinking this is true is because our house has always been full of activity. When we built our swimming pool, we found refilled graves in our backyard. The ground was a lot softer than the site, so it was a clear indication. I experienced sleep paralysis since the first grade, and I got so used to it that it would happen now and I would just pray and wait it out. I know it's not normal, if you take into regard of what I've experienced in those states, from scratches all over my body to actually seeing demons. It's important to note that my dad is extremely cautious of opening doors to the other side. He didn't allow me to watch Harry Potter, for instance, and he's known to be very spiritual, as he dealt with demonic entities in his life and doesn't want me to experience the things he did. For example, he has a bullet wound on his hand because in his dream he tried to shoot a demon, not knowing what else to do. My mom, on the other hand, is my confidant. I trust her with everything going on in my life and would do anything for her. I see her as someone who wouldn't put me in harm's way at all, and she would always go to the pits of hell to retrieve me back if she had to. You'll soon see why me naming my parents were important. About a week before I moved out to university, I woke up to the sensation of something sitting next to me at my head on the bed. At first, I thought this was my mom because she woke me up this way, but when I couldn't move, I knew what was going on. This experience felt different. In my sleep paralysis episodes, it would always sit on the end of my bed at my feet, but this time it felt way more vulnerable by it copying my mom. So I stayed calm, thinking it would just be another episode. I started to pray. Then all of a sudden, this thing on my bed climbed on top of me. It felt like he had hands for feet, and all 4 of its hands pressed my limbs into the bed. I started to freak out because I hadn't felt anything physical in years. I prayed it away immediately, and that's when I woke up the first time. After this, the exact same thing happened, but all of a sudden my bedroom door was open, and my dad, the spiritualist in the family, is standing in my doorframe staring. Not at me, but at this entity on top of me, not phased. I yelled for him to help me, and he shifted his gaze from the thing to me and said in the most chilling, flat-toned voice ever, "There's nothing," and then looked back at it and walked away. I felt betrayed and struggled with the thing and continued my prayer for it to stop. After that, I woke up for the second time, and my mom was the one standing in my doorframe. My protector, I thought, someone who would help me even if she knew she would pass in the process. But the same thing happened with her, just standing and staring at that thing with no emotion and saying, "There's nothing." I repeated my ritual of prayer, and it went away only for me to wake up a third time. I didn't give this thing a chance to grab me again, so I ran to my parents' room, expecting them to be asleep, but they were sitting upright as if they were waiting for me. I was taken aback and yelled at my dad to tell me his name. I remember that if you know a demon or a bad entity's name, you hold power over them. I continued to demand to my dad what his name was, and in the exact same tone and demeanor from earlier, he said, "James." Knowing I'm going nowhere with that, I asked my mom, and the exact same thing happened with her, Olivia, in the same tone and demeanor. They said it in such a way that those names of the loved ones all of a sudden had no meaning. I told them to repeat the Lord's Prayer, and they didn't like this at all. They both grew angrier, and I could see the violence in their eyes. They turned their heads towards each other and turned back and towards me as if they had rehearsed it to be in sync. Their anger petrified every part of my being, and they lunged at me. That's when I actually woke up, drenched in sweat and tears, and I ran to my parents' room. They were enjoying their morning coffee. I yelled like a mad woman at them to say the Lord's Prayer. Concerned and confused, they both Concerned and confused, they both repeated it. And I just fell into their arms crying, knowing I wasn't dreaming anymore. My dad and I talked about it a few times after me crying, and I wondered if I had opened any doors. I was always truthful to him about my experiences, and I honestly couldn't give him a reason as to why it had happened. Maybe it knew I was about to leave and wanted to force me to stay. I honestly don't know. Thank you for your amazing content, and good luck living in Appalachia. So I have so many theories on this. Coming from someone who was raised really religious, I think a lot of negative things prey on the fear that Christianity kind of brings with demons and things like that. So I don't know if it'll make you feel better or worse, but maybe you weren't dealing with a classic demon. It was just a negative energy that was pretending to be that, because they do that. If they think it's going to scare you, they'll do it, and it sucks. Did you guys hear that in the middle? The fuck was that? What was that? Anyways. Next story. This story is from my husband, Miguel, who was born and raised on a ranch in Guanajuato. Guanajuato? Guanajuato, Mexico. They put the way to say it, I'm still struggling. He was around 17 years old when he was walking to his house at night. Keep in mind the next ranch or house is just about a half a mile away. He was on a narrow 2-foot dirt road. He was outside at around 11 p.m. and he was heading back to his house when he heard the sound of a woman's heels walking in front of him. A very confusing sound because no one owned heels on this ranch. All of a sudden he looked up and straight ahead on the road to the left he saw a huge, not like other dogs near the ranch, black dog. He said it was twice the size of a normal German Shepherd, and the head was at least the height of 5 feet. There was nothing strange about its eyes, like color or anything. They locked eyes and just stared at each other. The hair on his entire body stood up, and he was frozen with fear but remained calm. They stared at each other for what felt like forever, but probably was just a minute. He told me that he was not in fear of the dog itself, but how it made him feel. It made no sound, no growl, didn't bare its teeth, no noise at all. With eyes still on the dog, he bent down to try and pick up a rock to throw, if he had to defend himself, but could not find anything. The dog just stared and never broke eye contact. After finding nothing, he forced himself to look back at the road and keep walking towards the house. He did not turn around to see if it was following. As he walked away, he remembered he had protection in his pocket. He pulled it out and kept it by his side the rest of the way back. He said as he kept going, he heard those high heel sounds of the dog continuing down the road in the opposite direction. As he got closer to the house, he ran to go inside and never had an encounter with that dog again. After this story, I looked up a lot of stories and legends and researched Mexican culture. A lot of articles say that the black dog is related or a foreshadow of death. I read about hellhounds, which are more common in British Isles folklore. This below is copy-pasted from Wiki. The Cadejo. Cadejo? It's Cadejo. This is a supernatural spirit that appears as a dog-shaped creature with blue eyes when it is calm and red eyes when it's attacking. It roams around isolated roads at night, according to Central American folklore of indigenous origin. There is a good white Cadejo and an evil black Cadejo. Both are spirits that appear at night to travelers. The white Cadejo protects from harm and danger during the journey, while the black Cadejo is something of an incarnate of the devil, and it'll try to hurt you. They usually appear in the form of a large shaggy dog, potentially as big as a cow, with burning red eyes and goat's hooves, although in some areas they have more rough characteristics. The goat hooves spoke to me because he said he heard clacking of what sounded like a woman's high heels, which I think was so eerie. What? I'm so glad they put in that little bit about the folklore because I was about to drop everything and research it myself. Alright, next story. I'm going to start off with my dad's mom passed when he was around 8 or 9, late 60s, early 70s kind of time from cancer. He has an older sister and brother. His sister, my auntie, wanted to do a Ouija board to contact her mom, and my dad agreed, not knowing the consequences. They did it, and not a lot happened, but after a while my dad started feeling a dark presence that was definitely not my grandmother. This presence made him angry, kind of like it just completely took him over and made his emotions completely uncontrollable. He smashed windows and caused a whole lot of disruption. My dad and his family lived in Birmingham at the time, and after a while my grandpa got remarried and moved to Warwick, where we still live now. Skipping ahead a few years, my dad still has this presence. There was a few incidents of plastic bottles going flying across the rooms, but nothing too crazy over the next 10 to 20 years. So after my mother has me, my dad was in the pub about 2 minutes down the road from our house. I'm about 2 months old, so this is late 2004. My mom can still recall this moment like it happened days ago. She had just put me in bed and was about to leave my room when she heard footsteps, like someone was wearing heavy construction boots in our bathroom. Then something falls on the floor. This is before everyone had mobile phones, so she can't just call my dad to ask him to come home to check and see if there's someone in the house. It stops and she checks the house. There's nothing. Now fast forward to my parents having a party at our house. I'm probably around 4 to 5 years old at this point. And the fruit bowl that is sat on top of our microwave gets flung across the room and smacks the back door. I have clear and vivid memories of this happening. Now in about 2016, 6 months after my grandpa passes away at 82, I'm 12 at this point. I'm in my room chilling, getting ready to go to bed, and I look up at my bedroom door. Well, I see the figure of a man stood looking at me. Too slim and short to be my dad. This presence wasn't a scary one, it was comforting. It was also accompanied by the smell of tobacco and ale, so I knew exactly who it was. My grandpa. I can still smell this when I'm hurting or in a bad place mentally. It's very comforting. The last part of my story definitely makes the most uncomfortable. It started maybe a year ago, and it's my name being said into my ear, whether I'm at work, home, or out with my friends. It's random, and I always get a shiver down my spine when I hear it. I don't think this is a nice presence. To give one last little bit at the end of the story, my dad, 50 years old, still has this dark presence looming over him. It still makes him increasingly angry. He's learned how to deal with it, but it's very much still there. So is the presence of a spirit in our house, but it for the most part leaves us be and we leave it be. I have thoughts about the presence with a dad. So obviously it doesn't always matter, but I wonder if the board got closed correctly. There's probably, if it's been attached that long, that is a cord cutting ritual situation that I actually recommend you guys look into if you haven't, because I just know that that is wearing down that man. Ooh. But anyways, that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you tomorrow.